Welcome, my friends and enemies alike. We are back and better than ever. And we're fired up because I don't usually do UFC and MMA recaps on Sunday nights, but the man, the myth, the legend prompted me to do it himself. He's back on the program once again. It's my good friend across the world, my man, co-founder and editor, or founder actually and editor of MMA DNA, my man, Marcel Dorff. Let's let everybody know how you're doing today, my man.
Doing great, man. Thank you. Co-founder of this, yeah.
Co-founder, okay, yeah.
Thanks, man. Yeah, really cool to be back on your show again. So always like to talk about MMA, and you're great to talk to. So yeah, awesome.
You and I are both really excited about this one, huh? You know, we were kind of giddy about it off the record about the things that we kind of have reserved to say, and it is maybe not narcissistic, but it is something in our own rights that let us know that our words kind of mean something, just given with the knowledge that we do have and kind of the takeaways that we have garnished from what happened. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around a whole bunch of it, man. But before we get into the nitty gritty of it, this is episode 47 of the Bottom Line podcast in the 19th MMA Tailored Edition. My name is Davidson Baker. I am the founder and host of this podcast, the founder of GringoGossip.com, and a staff writer at the MMATakeover.com. And I'd like to thank you very much, and I really do mean that, for joining me tonight, Marcel and I, for joining us tonight and talking about, first of all, so before we talk about any of the antics and any of what kind of went down after the fact, let's talk about the fight first. So one thing that has kind of troubled me, and maybe not troubled me, but has just I've kind of disagreed with, is, and it doesn't even matter in the grand scheme of things. I see a lot of people talking about how Khabib dominated for all 4 rounds, and I thought Conor won the 3rd round, and that's not the narrative I'm trying to lay whatsoever. Khabib was the recipient of being the winner the vast majority of the fight, but I don't think that Conor was ineffective. He definitely looked a lot less dangerous, though. He definitely was not as dangerous. I thought he was doing well fending off the single leg for the majority of the 1st round until Khabib finally got him down. And once he got him down, man, Conor just couldn't get back up.
Yeah, it's like you said. It's Conor was not how do you say that, ready for Khabib's ground game. The moment he had him on the ground, he could go up sometimes because he was still kind of fresh, But Khabib was pretty dominating in all facets of the game. And maybe the 3rd round was the most close round, I think, that you could give him to Conor. I agree. But in the whole package of the fight, even at a certain moment, Khabib knocks him down. He just...
Dude! Like, did you expect that to happen ever?
No.
Like, there are very rare moments where I jump off my couch when I'm watching these fights, because I've come to the understanding that every fucking thing is not assumed. You have to go in there expecting the unexpected. But oh my God, when Khabib dropped Conor with a right hand, I didn't know it. I didn't even know how to react, bro.
Yeah, that was a crazy moment. I think not many people had expected that at all. And yeah, Khabib just was like, I'm going to stand a little bit with him. And I was like, that's pretty dangerous what you're doing right now. And then he landed that crazy hit out of nowhere, actually. And yeah, I was speechless at that moment, and I think most people were. I was like watching with my how do you say that? When not breathing, I was like, what's happening here? And yeah, overall, what do you say?
Here's my question to you, my friend.
Yes.
What do you think you learned about Khabib Nurmagomedov? And like I said, we'll get into everything that happened after the fact. because as that has ingrained itself as a part of the storyline, it has to be something we have to touch on. But if we're talking about this fight as, you know, the sole proprietor of this conversation, what did you learn that you don't think you may have known before going in about Khabib? Because I think I have a couple of things. I want to hear yours first, though.
Mine, I know he had a strong mind. There was nothing that surprised me, man. I mean, his ground control is good. That also didn't surprise me. It was that punch that surprised. It surprised me maybe that he was standing with Conor when he knew I'm much better on the ground than Conor. Let's be honest, he's much better on the ground than Conor. Conor McGregor is a more, how do you say, a more technical striker than Khabib, and is better, significantly better than Khabib on the ground, on the stand-up. But Khabib landed that shot, and I didn't expect it. The third round was pretty much, I was like, why he keeps this standing, you know? And I was like, that's pretty risky, actually. You know, that was my opinion at that moment. And yeah, that was what surprised me about this. Not really much, man. I mean, we know Khabib, we know how he sees the fight, and that was pretty much it for me. Why? Just tell me your opinion.
I think that one thing that kind of took me off guard is I kept saying over and over again, to those who may not be as well versed as you or myself in maybe, you know, as tuned into the sport as we are, I think when people that were maybe that amongst the sample size of what we would call the casuals would ask me my opinion on it, a lot of times I would tell people I don't have a damn clue what could actually take place with any type of, you know, with any type of confidence. I have a prediction, and my prediction was wrong. But I don't, as far as like, what do you think is going to happen? Who the hell knows? But I did know for sure that the X factor in this fight that was going to determine who was going to win the fight, and I think I said it on our pre-card episode, was if and when Khabib took Conor down, how long was it going to take for Conor to get back up? And not only that, can Conor get back up at all? And I think that question was answered emphatically. Conor did manage to get back up on a couple of occasions, but he spent a lot of time with Khabib in top control. And tell me this too. I noticed this in the second round. When Khabib was flurrying, if that fight was not the fight that it was, is that fight getting stopped?
Not by Herb Dean.
Oh, okay. So you think it was just Herb Dean as an individual? He kind of let fights go a little bit longer like that. That looked like that fight was dangerously close to being stopped, in my opinion, just because Khabib was landing some absolutely heavy top shots from up top.
It's really from the perspective of the referee at that moment. You know, some referees come in early and some don't. Personally, it's a championship fight, so I'm like, you can let it go a little bit longer. I didn't have a problem with this thing. You know, it's okay to me. It's another thing with if you can remember Chris Weidman against Luke Rockhold 1, when also Herb Dean was the ref. That was horrible in my opinion. You know, that was like ground and pound for 1 minute from how was that, from full mount, and that was horrible. But I could see this. You know, I could see this. It was not a big problem. The only thing I thought that Herb was wrong with is that he didn't call the shot, the knee to a down opponent when Khabib was on Conor. He didn't call the glove grabbing multiple times. He didn't call the toes from Conor McGregor inside the cage where he crawled. He also didn't call that. So that was pretty much that bothered me with that. But overall, the thing what you say with it, it could be stopped. I can see that as well, but it's not a big problem to me, actually.
Yeah, no, me neither. I'm not trying to wave the flag, you know, for Khabib to earn a second round TKO and rather than a fourth round submission, because being 27-0 and having your first lightweight championship defense over Conor McGregor is going to carry the same merit, whether that fight went to decision or whether Khabib finished him in the first round. Let's just say that again. Let's just put that distinction into the air, that we talked endlessly about resumes in this fight too, going into it, is that Conor McGregor clearly had the better resume. You know, he had the win over Alvarez. He had the win over Aldo. You know, he didn't have to take the Diaz rematch, and he also didn't have to take either of those fights at 170, and he did anyway and split them. I think it was undoubtable that Conor held the more impressive resume on the MMA circuit with Khabib. I'm not saying Khabib hasn't beaten anybody. He definitely has. You know, he's got wins over RDA and Barbosa. But for a resume to kind of stick out now as the champion in the world's most stacked division in the sport, as a 27-0 fighter, coming off your first title defense against Conor McGregor, I mean, I can't really even formulate into words how impressive just having that type of title is for a guy like Khabib, man.
Yeah, but you also have to take and mention that Conor also only fought 2 times at 155 in the UFC.
Yeah.
He got a title shot right away, which I still think, and that's not hating on Conor McGregor, was absolutely ridiculous at the moment of time, because that division was stacked and is still stacked with contenders, you know. And
is it the best division in the world?
For me, it is years already.
I think so too.
People say middleweight sometimes, but I think I go with lightweight. Middleweight is good as well.
Middleweight, I think middleweight's good. As stacked as lightweight though. I would even put welterweight. I would even put welterweight higher than middleweight. And maybe I could make an argument bantamweight too.
Let's put it this way: the top 25 lightweights would all be ranked as if they were heavyweights.
Oh yeah, no, undoubtedly. I like the middleweight division though, as far as up and comers are concerned. I think middleweight is stacked with a lot of up and coming talent. But sticking to the narrative here, man. I asked you what you may have learned about Khabib, man. What do you think we might have? Wow, okay, a little bit overboard right there. What do you think we might have learned about Conor McGregor? I think he had a daunting task in front of him, and I give the man all respect in the world for not only taking it on, but having it pegged as the highest priority on his list. It just seemed to me he was in another world on the ground, just like everybody else when Khabib takes him down.
He was just how do you say that? He was just outmatched in this fight. Let's be honest. Khabib is a level above him, definitely on the ground. He could basically match him, unless some minutes in the 3rd round, also in the striking department. In this fight, I don't say normally, but in this fight, but on the ground, total different levels, man. And that should be. That's clear. We actually knew that would happen if Khabib could got him to the ground, and he got him to the ground numerous times. So I'm not surprised with how that went down on the ground. I'm not surprised how the fight developed. Maybe I am, but I'm not surprised that Khabib had so much control, and actually he didn't even have the arm under the chin for the submission.
Yeah, I saw some websites claim it as a rear naked choke. That looked like a neck crank to me.
It's I think we will come back about that after the antics of the fight, because that's a part where I want to get into why I also think Khabib reacted this way.
Yeah, and let's get into it. To be honest with you, you got to imagine that it felt a little weird to me too, and Dana alluded to it in the post-fight press conference, that it felt almost strange given all of the controversy and everything that the tabloids could grab a hold to through the making of this fight, all the way from April to now, and even beyond then. It almost he alluded to it in the press conference, man. He said that it almost felt like fight week went too perfectly and that everything went too smoothly. But I don't think anyone could have foreseen what was going to transpire afterwards, regardless of how smooth everything leading up to the fight was. And you've got to imagine that it's going to be a black eye on the perception of the sport for those who, let's be honest, man, a lot of people are tuned into that fight last night that aren't going to tune into 230. They're not going to watch Holloway and Ortega at 231. There were a lot of eyeballs on this fight that who knows when they're going to watch a UFC pay-per-view again.
You can, in my opinion, you can pull the blame on Dana White. I'm sorry to say. I said it from the beginning. I mean, if he let this thing totally escalate, he even hyped it up with numerous videos that he shouldn't have done, in my opinion. MMA is about respect. Always has been for me. I always tell you, I don't care about the hype. I don't care about the bullshit. I just want to see the fight. And with some people, they are you don't fuck with them. There's just McGregor. We all know what he does before the fight. He tries to get in the head of his opponent, and that's no problem. And I mean, it's part of the game if you do that. But there are certain, how do you say that? There are certain. I don't get the word again. There are certain. Not levels, but boundaries. How do you say that? There are certain things you can do. There's a line. There's a line you shouldn't cross, and you cross that line time and time after again. And finally you meet a person you can do that against. And it's not like, oh, we going to trash talk and we talk shit about your father before the fight and about your religion and about that, and then after the fight we shake hands. It's not like that. Khabib is a very how do you say it? A very person who has a belief. He believes in something. His family is very important to him. It gets personal. He said it at the press conference when a journalist asked him, like, will you shake hands after the fight? And he was like, no. And everybody was laughing about it. But he was that serious. And nobody expected this to happen. I also didn't expect this to happen. And I don't say it's good that it happened. Absolutely not. It's awful that it happened. But there is a long story before what happened, before this happened. And it's not done with a fight. And that's where I wanted to break in. Like I said, Conor tapped from a neck crank where he wasn't in the body triangle. It wasn't under his chin. Yeah. And I had the feeling Khabib also didn't want to let loose. Khabib was like, no, you didn't get your punishment enough, in my opinion. That's what I saw in his eyes. And that's when it went totally crazy. And I think that was a, how do we say that, bad of the part of Khabib. He shouldn't have done that. I agree with that, but there is a backstory on that. And people shouldn't forget that. And then to Dana White say it's horrible, blah, blah, blah. You didn't do anything in the first place to even, how do you say this, to not get this out of hand. You just laughed about it, take the cash, and was like, yeah, this is great for us, it's great for the UFC. It's not great for the UFC, it's not great for the sport of MMA. Yeah, and he knows you and me, we will watch MMA events. Nonetheless, hype, not hype, we will watch. So he doesn't care about us, what we think. But he cares about the casuals who don't watch every MMA fight, but watch this fight, who will make him money. And that's all he cares about. That's basically all he cares about. And it pisses me off that many people in the media don't see this, And I say this on behalf of myself, not on behalf of MMA DNA or other guys. They have maybe other beliefs and other things about it, but that's what I say. I hate it that the media also doesn't see this and also promote this bullshit continuously only to get more clicks. You are also part of this bullshit that happened yesterday because you bring the sport in discredit, in my opinion. If you all love this, it's like, oh, Conor won the press conference 1-0. He won the press conference 2-0. This bullshit, man. Can we talk about fight, please? I don't have problem with hype, but can we keep it clean? That's
wow. Yeah, no, yeah, totally. And I think you're absolutely dead spot on a lot of things that you said. Kind of parlaying into exactly what this could mean, for both guys. I think this is going to end up haunting Khabib a little bit more than it's going to haunt Conor. I think they're both to blame, and I think they both were a part of the melee. But as far as the Nevada State Athletic Commission reaching into the pockets, they're going to take plenty of money that Khabib was going to earn off of this fight. And on top of that, you don't think there's any chance he's going to be stripped, do you? Because I don't think there's any chance that that's going to happen.
The UFC makes the calls on that. It's not the Athletic Commission who makes it, and it's basically bullshit. If he gets suspended in Nevada, he can fight somewhere else.
Right.
So, and if the UFC strips him because of that, this is total bullshit, man. I really think that's total bullshit. You can give him a fine. I would give him a fine. I'd be fine with that. Fun thing to say, but it's just and what even bothers me is that Dana was like, yeah, we might strip him if he, dude. You let somebody have a belt for 1 year, 1.5 years when he was injured or when he's not fighting, and now you're going to want to strip him after a dominant performance against a guy you thought was your Muhammad Ali from the MMA, he said. Fighting, talking, all that. That's what he said.
That was some serious baggage he laid on Conor too, man. I mean, and even Conor had to take a step back. I've never seen Conor McGregor take a step back from any type of comparison or, proverbial dawning of anything like given to him. And that's more so, credit to the great Muhammad Ali more than anything else. But even Conor himself kind of, took the right notice into kind of backing up and saying like, guys, I'm not that man. And I do credit Conor McGregor for doing that leading up to it. And largely that is kind of irrelevant to the point here. And what I want to kind of get into is this. I think you and I both, we talked about it off the record, and we're both in complete and total agreement that there's a smart way and a smart direction to go if you are the UFC. If there is ever a time that you look Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard in the eyes and you say, how the hell can we make any lightweight title fight that is not Khabib versus Tony? I just don't know how there's a good argument to another one. I really don't, or an alternative. I really don't think a Khabib Conor rematch would be a good idea right now. That rematch will be there eventually. These guys are going to hate each other forever. And on top of that,
no rematch, dude.
It just so you don't want the rematch at all. Like,
believe me, man, Khabib is not going to take a rematch with Conor.
I think
no way. Also, not for the money.
I think that is certainly possible. It hypothetically speaking, though, if it were to be on the table for anyone's self-belief, do it later, because Khabib and Tony, I think, was proven and undoubtedly shown last night as that's the fight at lightweight, man. Like that is the fight at 155 pounds. And Tony Ferguson provides a lot of issues to Khabib that Conor just doesn't. Tony is so dangerous off of his back, and that's where Khabib spends a lot of his time working his bread and butter, is getting guys when he's in his top position and using his superior grappling control. And Tony Ferguson is a guy that you never want to make a split second or any type of mistake of any magnitude on the ground with, because he'll throw up triangles and arm bars and he'll do all these unorthodox things. And I can't believe I saw him last night when Pettis hurt him at the beginning of the second round. He did like the same somersault kind of maneuver that he did in the Venata fight, dude. Like he just like tuck and did a barrel roll.
It's actually very smart that he does that, because you can't get crazy and get punching him, because you can hit him on the back of the head. You can't go full blast on him. That's actually very smart.
It really is, man. And a lot of people would look at it like, he's like, well, what is he doing? I mean, he was clearly hurt. A phenomenal fight between Ferguson and Pettis too. I think that fight had fight of the night written all over it. I was pretty bummed that it didn't see a third round, but obviously I hope Anthony Pettis can heal up with that broken hand and everything. On the scope of what might be next for Conor McGregor, though, Nate Diaz does fight in a month, and I think that the result of that fight could largely, play a factor in what happens in the subsequent booking of whatever's next for Conor McGregor. And like I said, I don't think. I think it's 2+2, man. Khabib versus Tony. There's never been a better time to make it now, and especially if Diaz comes up short against Poirier. No, even if he wins against Poirier, McGregor Diaz 3 makes a lot of sense, because if you're the UFC, I mean, that's just another easy 1 million pay-per-view plus that you could stow in your back pocket without a title even being on the line.
Yeah, true. I agree. Nothing more to add.
It's a smart move to make. I mean,
it's a fight I want to see as well. So
I want the rematch. Like Khabib would just do the same thing. I really think it would just result in exactly what we saw last night.
Yeah.
If they were to fight again.
I have no problem with it, man.
What do you think? What do you think the punishment could possibly be, though? Before we, kind of touch on who else kind of impressed us last night, what do you think might happen to Khabib?
I don't know, man. That's the probably commission gonna look at it, and I don't know. But I want to add something more. Most
Yep.
websites have only shown the actual footage, what was shown on TV on pay-per-view. I recommend to go to Ram Gilboa Twitter account and also watch that video from the view from the side from somebody who recorded. I don't know if he recorded it, so much credit to him. But you also see some more things, and you see that it's not actually not. Many people say Zabara Tuhugov went after Conor McGregor,
Now,
but he's
is
not.
that true? Like, do we know that that's a fact?
That's not a fact, because the guy who punched Conor McGregor was a guy in a red shirt, and Zabara had a black shirt on.
Was it Abubakar?
No, Abubakar was actually when the fight was over and Khabib went over the cage.
Yeah.
Khabib attacked Dylan Danis. Abubakar, he had the papaka in his hand, and he went to the McGregor corner, and he wanted to get over the cage. But Conor was also going over the cage, but he was taking held down by the people in the red suits. So at that moment, when Abubakar wants to get over, McGregor tried to slap him or tried to punch him, and not really hard hit him, but hit him a little bit. And Abubakar saw that, and he started to punch McGregor with the papaka. So that was what happened. Then you saw Islam Makhachev on the side. He didn't came into the cage, I think. And Tuhugov at that moment came into the cage because he saw Abubakar had a problem, was getting slapped. Then he went to Conor. Then you get a little bit a cut out. I didn't see this well. Conor hit Tuhugov 100%. I don't know. I think Tuhugov hit him as well, but I didn't see this footage of that. But it could be true. No idea. But and then I think Rizwan Magomedov, if I'm right, or no, not Rizwan Magomedov, but the other guy I don't know the name of, also a Dagestani, went in the cage and he took a shot at Conor McGregor. That was the guy in the red who had held from the people. But what do these people in those red tuxedos or whatever? What are they doing there?
Hey man, here's my thing with those guys. Shout out to the guy that let Khabib initially land or initially get clear for takeoff. Because when you look at it on the replay, Khabib was kind of being like corralled half-assed by one of the guys in the red suits. Like he's like kind of got his eye on him. And then obviously Khabib, being a superior monster of an athlete he is, the split second he saw the opening. And I also think and that exact moment when he saw the opening to hop over the fence. And I also think that Dylan Danis had to have said something. And at that point, it was just, boom, bitch, get out the way, bitch, get out the way. Khabib was I really think Dylan Danis had to have said something, because he didn't go for anybody else. He went straight at Dylan Danis, and as well as I do, Dylan Danis is a guy that can get under people's skin pretty easily.
But I want that's an assumption, and it's probably true. But I want to know what has been said. If actually he did something, said something, we have to know it, because then we know, maybe we understand more why it happened. We understand why it happened, but we want to know exactly why it happened at that moment, at that place. And maybe Dylan said something very bad, you don't know what, and it triggers Khabib. I don't know exactly what. So it's hard to say something about that, because we really don't know. But you are talking about the repercussions, what's going to happen. It's so hard, man. What you want to do? Dana already said that he probably gonna. How do you say that? Tuhugov, he's not fighting Lobov in Moncton, which is sad, man. I mean, I did look forward to that fight, not as a co-main event, to be honest, but I did look forward to that fight. And man, if Islam Makhachev gets booted for that would be awful, man, because he's one of the most talented guys at lightweight, one of the biggest up and comers right now. And You know, I hope the UFC learns from this as well, man. I mean, everybody is pointing to McGregor and pointing to Khabib about this, but let's point to the UFC about this more. You know, I really feel like people should be more pointing to Dana White. And almost, I have to say this, man, nobody in the media, almost nobody, like 90% doesn't do it. Only, also Joe Rogan only sees what happens at the spot, but you have to see the big picture. You
Yeah.
know, and the big picture is that the UFC is promoting a fight based on violence, you know, and not violence inside the cage, but violence outside the cage, where people were innocent, were in a bus, you know, they got injured. Two guys got injured, you know, Michael Chiesa and Ray Borg. You can't use that as promotion material, in my opinion. I understand they want to make cash, but do it the right way. You know, in my opinion, if you can make $5 billion, it's just hypothetical. Yeah, if you can make $5 billion, or you can make $6 billion, do the right thing and go for the five, and don't do the wrong thing, go for the six. That's my opinion, but that's because maybe that's why I'm a lousy businessman, which I would be. You know, I don't know, but I'm just like this. You know, keep it clean. The sport MMA is always have been about respect. There can be some hype. There can be some a little bit, you know, a little bit. People annoy each other. There's no problem in that, but have some respect, man. And that goes from both ways. But this was already been totally getting out of hand. But the UFC didn't notice that at all. They thought Khabib is a very calm guy. He doesn't let Conor get into his head. But Conor went into his head, but this time for the wrong for Conor this time. That Conor got into his head. And don't it's a different culture, you know. I said it to my dad, also watch MMA. He loves MMA. I said to my dad, I said, listen, if you tell me today, like my priest from my city here, he's a scumbag and he's a gay, for example. Not that I care, but yeah, I don't care. You know, you can say what you want about him. I don't care. I'm a Catholic Christian. Okay, you say what you think about him. You know, it doesn't affect me. But these guys, they have a different. They have been raised in a different way than we are. You know,
Yeah.
and it's about respect. It's about don't fuck about anybody's family and this kind of that. It's about a huge respecting. And if you go across that line, that can happen stupid stuff, you know. And that's what basically happened. And this will never get finished. Believe me, this will never finish.
Yeah.
And that's why you don't want to see a rematch. Believe me, you don't want to see a rematch.
Really. I'm in that boat. I mean, not even for any of the extracurriculars, man. I don't want to see a rematch because I think, as I said earlier, man, I made a prediction going into this fight, and I was ultimately incorrect with my prediction. And I think a lot of people were, man. I think a lot of people were picking Khabib. A lot of people were picking Conor for, adverse reasons in and of their own selves. However, all of that being said, now that we know what we know, and as I continue to harp time and time again on the X factor of that fight being how long can Khabib hold Conor down on the ground, I believe we got our answer. And I have a very difficult time believing, that it would look much different if they ran it back. It's not a rematch that I personally would be all, going. I mean, if they make it, I mean, obviously we're going to watch it, but it's not a rematch that I would be more excited to see Khabib and Tony. It's.
Dude, that's our curse in life, man. We watch it neither way. What happens?
That's the fight, man. That's the fight. Khabib and Tony is the fight.
Dude, if they put Tony against Michael Smith, that's not an MMA fighter, but you know what I mean. Just a random somebody, we will watch it. You know, we love MMA, and that's why we watch it. It's not because we like the big fights. You know, like some people only watch the big fights. We love MMA, so we will watch either way, man. It doesn't matter who they fight, actually. But that's why I said to you, that's why the UFC doesn't give a shit about the fans who always watch everything, because they know they will tune in. They know they will buy the pay-per-view, or at least they will watch. I don't say everybody buys a pay-per-view who will always watch, but you know, that's a fact. Let's be honest. I mean,
Speaking of that,
yeah.
Speaking of that, I have to ask. I did find myself upon the BT Sports stream of things. I won't go into details. And when you watch the BT Sport broadcast, they don't do like the traditional pay-per-view does. They go through commercials because obviously they're airing it live in the UK. So are you aware, and this kind of parlays back into what you were saying earlier about promotion, did they mention a goddamn thing about UFC 230?
Nope.
I didn't expect them to, man. Man, I tweeted too kind of after it. It was now that Khabib and Conor is in the rearview mirror, it's a very numbing and almost disturbing feeling. Kind of, I woke up today and it wasn't the first thing on my mind, but I did kind of realize shortly after, it was like, okay, I don't have this fight to look forward to anymore. It's already happened. We already know the result of it. And I'm a very look ahead type of person. And then, you know, obviously you got a hell of a main event in Moncton on October 27th. And obviously for us, you know, MMA guys, we got an incredible double dip in the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix this upcoming weekend. That's got me super psyched.
What about PFL, man?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. I actually didn't get to watch PFL until like after the UFC card last night, and I watched the whole thing, and I have a lot of reservations about that, especially about the upkick that hit Steven Seiler.
Yep.
And we might talk about that closer to the end of this. I really do. That's something I'm super interested in as well. However, that coming to the realization that Conor McGregor's return against a guy like Khabib Nurmagomedov is now in the rearview mirror, and the next pay-per-view is Shevchenko versus Eubanks, man. I mean, it was kind of like, damn. There's just not a whole lot of good feelings about it, and especially like that. Did you see when Dana did the interview with Brett Okamoto in the middle of fight week, and Brett Okamoto kind of asked him, like, can you confirm that Valentina Shevchenko and Sijara Eubanks is the main event? Dana just kind of looked at the ground and he was like, yeah, that's the main event. Like he was ashamed, man. I mean, I'm not saying shame on Dana White, man. I really think they tried. I really think they tried. They tried their best to find something.
Man, you said it yourself so many times. Diaz, Poirier, 5-round main event, done deal, I mean, no problem.
But they got to have a belt.
No,
I know, I agree they don't, but in their minds, they think they do.
Yeah, but that's the click in their head. That's not the right click what they have nowadays. You know, back in the day, you had 5 fights on the pay-per-view, and they were good. Yeah, people wanted to buy the pay-per-view because it was good, and it wasn't $65 or $70 he had. It was like 50 or 55, and that's already a lot, you know. And they were good, and now you're gonna put like 1 or 2 big fights on the pay-per-view, and the other 3 is like, yeah, we should put something together. But you still have good fights on that card, man. You get Nate Diaz against Poirier, you have Branch against Jacare, you have Weidman against Luke Rocco, you got Adesanya against Brunson, you got Shane Burgos on it, you got Julio Arce on it on the prelims, man. Lyman Good you have on it. You get Orlando Venada against Matt Frivola. You get good fights on it. You know?
Marshman too.
Yeah, true. Carl Robertson against Marshman.
It's a great card, man.
Yeah, actually it is. But the main event is very underwhelming, and it's actually very underwhelming because you already announced JJ against Shevchenko. You know, and I didn't think that was the right fight to make. I think other people think it was. But after you make that fight, don't take it back and go with Valentina against Eubanks on the main event in fucking New York. Right. Where you had all big cards so far. The 2 in MSG, those were all big, and now you come with. You can't do that.
I don't know. Only thing that I'm on kind of the other side about is I was all for Shevchenko and Joanna, and I'm not saying you weren't, but it's a brand new division. I mean the inaugural champion was crowned by winning a tournament against fighters who weren't even in the UFC in the first place. This isn't me trying to downplay Nico Montano, because that's not what I'm here for. Mm-hmm. But if there's ever a time that kind of situation might be warranted, I think it might be now in a division that is kind of brand new and still trying to find its identity in the UFC amongst its weight classes. Hell, I mean, the UFC flyweight division is brand fucking new, but I still could make a comprehensive case that it's better than bantamweight.
It is. Bantamweight is pretty much. But let's see. Let's put it this: bantamweight is like 20 fighters, 15 are ranked, and most shouldn't be ranked.
They got a new contender in that crop, though.
Yeah, you want to talk about Aspen Ladd?
Holy shit, dude! It's like, is she performing an exorcism when she's using her ground and pound? And like,
true, but
like what?
But also let's talk about her weight cut, because she had many problems to get to that 135 weight,
and she was at like 134, right?
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but she had many problems with that, man, and that can something to be in the future what can be a big problem. I mean, so I hope for her she can stay at this, because she already pulled out of 2 fights because of this, you know.
Yeah.
And you can't do that actually when you're really at the top, because now people who watch MMA don't really remember it. Yeah, people who are on it all the time know it, you know, but most people really won't take notice on it. But at the moment you're in the top 10 or you're in the top 5 and you're gonna miss weight for fights, it's gonna get after you, man. And I hope she can make weight easy next time, because she's a force, man. At bantamweight, she is definitely a force, and she was so impressive against Tonya Avenger, because Tonya Avenger is a tough veteran, man.
Absolutely.
Chris Cyborg, 3rd round TKO. I mean, and Aspen Ladd does it in the 1st round, you know. And I don't want to say Aspen Ladd would do great against Cyborg, but that says a lot about the girl, I think. How good she is actually right now.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And speaking of guys that may have, you know, had their coming out parties, or, you know, females, if we're talking about Aspen Ladd, but we are talking about a male in this situation. How about I think I would have been less impressed with Dominic Reyes if he would have went out and starched OSP right away, but he dominated from bell to bell. And I thought that was a lot more telling to me as a guy that, you know, had a lot of question marks kind of regarding anything about himself going past, you know, the early rounds with his pedigree of finishing fights early. I think he answered a lot of questions critics might have had, though, in a guy that is not a tough out whatsoever in this division, proven time and time again in OSP. Dominic Reyes looks like he checks all the boxes, and I'm trying to think a fight that might make sense for him next, man. Who do you give him to next? Like a top 5? Maybe top 10?
I like to see him fight the loser of Corey Anderson against Ilir Latifi.
The loser of that fight?
Yeah, the loser of the fight, because Ilir Latifi is 3rd or 4th rank, and Anderson is like 6th, I think. And that would be Ilir Latifi would be a great fight, because Ilir is a good striker, and I think he has solid ground game. And Anderson is a heavy wrestler, man, you know, and that would answer a lot of questions, I think, we still might have, if you still have it after this fight. And I want to have your opinion, man. TKO, would it have been called a TKO for Reyes?
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to gauge kind of if he was, you know, kind of unconscious or maybe out of it or wavering out of it, you know, right when the bell rings. And especially it could have certainly created controversy if Reyes wasn't as dominant as he was. However, Reyes was as dominant as he was. So at the end of the day, a win is a win. And I think in Dominic Reyes' corner, I think it would make a lot of sense for them to kind of be like, hey man, I think that was a KO, that was a TKO, because it certainly looked like it. But a win's a win at the end of the day, man, and it especially a win without a blemish on your scorecard against a guy that at one point was challenging John Jones for the right as the UFC interim light heavyweight champion. So and also a guy as Ovince St. Preux that, you know, the term gatekeeper it's not an insult, I don't believe, but I really do think kind of OSP kind of carries that role, man. He had Tyson Pedro in Singapore, and he put him away. I feel like Ilir Latifi had never been as high in contendership at 205 that he was before he submitted OSP. And Dominic Reyes is a guy that I'm excited to see what they do with next. I think the loser of Latifi and Anderson makes sense. I think even the loser of Ozdemir and Anthony Smith makes sense in a division that's kind of thin. Another division that's kind of thin is obviously, as we allude to all the time, is heavyweights. But dude, so I'm typing the recap for Lewis and Volkov, right? I'm doing. This was the lone recap I was given last night on the MMATakeover.com, where I am positioned as a staff writer with a lot of other talented guys. We get this schedule every week, and you got to do whatever play-by-play live result, kind of strike-by-strike blow. You type it out with whatever fight you're assigned, and it's not that the fight was kind of lulling me to sleep for a while, but I was very critical of Volkov's game plan even before he was in trouble. It seemed to me like Volkov was allowing Lewis to close inside the pocket, but in positions where Volkov would swarm him and eventually hurt him and get him up against the cage. But what Volkov would do that didn't make a lot of sense to me was Volkov would be swarming him and he would be throwing his bit of offense, and then he would just stop and he would reset. And then maybe 2 or 3 minutes later, he would do it again. And sure, I mean, that was a fine game plan for 4 minutes and 40 seconds, but it ended up costing him.
It's unbelievable, man. It's really unbelievable. Derek Lewis, he definitely always finds a way to win.
I screamed so loud.
if he didn't lose to Mark Hunt, he had a win streak from 10 or 12 fights. I remember. That's crazy, man, in the heavyweight division. And I think if we're going to look at the rounds he fought, I think only the ones where we had the knockout in those rounds he won that round. On the other rounds he might have lost.
Oh yeah,
that's crazy, man. He's now number 2 or 3rd ranked, and he might be next in line. Or maybe they make him fight Curtis Blades if Curtis wins against Francis Ngannou. But if Curtis loses against Francis, Derek is next in line, or against Miocic. I don't know.
When are we gonna decide that it's time to stop, kind of pitting everybody in the top 5 against each other? Obviously, with Brock Lesnar kind of on proverbial standby with however that's going to go with USADA, it's understandable for a fight like Cormier and Lesnar to be made, and I think Daniel Cormier deserves a fight like that for himself. I'm a big DC fan and a big John Jones fan, but I think Daniel Cormier is certainly underappreciated, and he deserds that Brock Lesnar fight.
Now you're bringing that up.
It's not going to last forever, man. But you got to wonder how long are we going to see these guys in the top 5 just fight each other before one of them gets a crack at the belt?
I don't know, man. But now you're bringing that up. There's also a thing I really dislike about the UFC with the Brock Lesnar thing. I'm sorry, dude. Cormier definitely deserves a big fight. I have no problem with it. Pay the man the same amount of money you would pay him against Brock Lesnar against a normal opponent. Because Brock Lesnar doesn't deserve to come back in the UFC to get a title shot. And I don't care if Daniel Cormier deserves this or that. Daniel Cormier says, yeah, I want to fight Lesnar, but not Jones right now. Dude, Brock Lesnar got caught in his last fight against Mark Hunt with more USADA than... You know what I mean? And then you're going to go to Jones and you don't want to fight him. I understand that the thing against Jones and DC will never be okay, But do you want, and I don't look at it from a business perspective, please. But do you really want to see DC fight against Lesnar from a sportive perspective in an MMA game?
Not more than I want to see. Not more than I want to see DC and Jones at heavyweight.
Okay, but besides that, do you want to see DC against Lesnar from a sportive perspective right now in MMA, knowing what you think is going to happen?
I mean, is it my first option as like fights I would want to see for Cormier's last couple fights? No.
Yeah.
You know, I think we all knew when Lesnar went out there against Mark Hunt. I think everybody kind of had their eyebrows raised a little bit. He was juiced to the tits. I don't know. That's a difficult question.
Yeah, but that's the question. What matters? You know, that's the question. What I always say. Look from it from a sportive perspective, and I mean that definitely to the media. You know, don't get after everything the UFC does. You know, it's not always good what the UFC does. They do it for the promotion from their company to get more money. You know, it's not always about the sportive perspective. But as the media, you should go with facts. You are not. Many media let themselves use by the UFC to put out their promotion. It's not how it should be. You should write about something, you know, from a neutral point of view. You know, that's my opinion.
Oh, of course. If you don't write, if you aren't impartial in a lot of, you know, mainstream journalism capacities, then you're not going to be around for very long. Yeah, fans call bullshit on that.
Yeah, I know, man. But listen, most people know the mainstream MMA media. There was also how do you say that? Some Twitter talk about some guys who want to see more about JMMA, Japanese MMA. And then a media member, I don't want to say his name here, he said like, yeah, we don't do that because not many people will click on it. I'm like, dude, you are part of the people who, a part of the problem, you know. Write about MMA. Don't write about he does or this is a crazy thing. People will click on that, we write on that. You know, I see many websites, for example, and your website, the MMA Takeover where you are at, you guys write articles, really good articles, because I don't say it because I'm now in your show, not like that, you know, but you write about fights, you know. You write about recaps, you write about fights, and that's what matters, you know. And you don't write about the bullshit, more about the bullshit than else. If, for example, for the casual fan, it's a totally I don't care about this fight as a casual fan. I'm not, but I'm talking about the casual fan. Dunn match against T. Edwards. That's an amazing matchup. I'm looking forward to that.
An amazing fight.
Yeah, UFC Moncton. You will write about that right away when you know about it. I will write about it right away when I know about it. The other big websites, DC, Conor McGregor has brought out a new whiskey, Proper 12. We write about that first because they get more clicks. You know, that's how it works, and that's the part of the problem, you know, and that's my opinion about it.
Can I say this though? I'm certainly not guilty as charged as putting myself in that sample size of people that prioritize the extracurriculars, while obviously Conor McGregor has every right to start every type of business for himself. I definitely don't prioritize that over the real reason why he is a star anyway. However, I would be lying if I said I don't have a bottle on back order right now.
It's no problem, man. You can. There is absolutely no problem with that. You know,
I just want to try it, man. Like,
yeah, man. I have here a bottle of Jameson, but it'll stand here for a year now.
Oh, the rivalry.
Yeah, but it's always for a year there, so there's nothing, you know, that's against it. But
it was really though more for me, man. It was really more like the art of the scavenger hunt for it, because obviously it was being imported from Ireland. You didn't know where you were going to get it, and you didn't know a lot of places. I literally called everywhere. Not even because I was like so dying, like, oh my God, I got to get a bottle of Proper 12. I just wanted to see if I could find it. And
what says that on your shirt there?
It's just like,
oh, I thought it said Conor McGregor fanboy. No, just kidding.
Oh man, that's gotta turn into a clip.
I'm just kidding.
That was a good one though. That one caught me off guard. Poof.
No, man, just continue, man. You can say whatever you want, man. I mean,
hey, man. No, yeah, I gotta take the loss. I gotta take the loss on that one. You set up your attack from a distinct standpoint and fired away perfectly. Another guy I do want to mention though on this fight card that I think had a massive win. How about UCA Formiga? Pretty difficult pill to swallow for the Pettis brothers, you know, with them going 0-2 on the card. But I thought they both I certainly thought both of them were in each of their respective fights. But where do you think this puts a guy like UCA Formiga? You've got to imagine that he's going to jump up to that probably number 2 spot where Pettis was kind of there. And I don't know if you did you see earlier in the week that Formiga claims that he was the like unofficial backup plan as a replacement for if Johnson or Cejudo fell out of 227. That's what he claims.
Yeah, but yeah, you know, people gave me hate for that yesterday. But I said Formiga maybe should be next in line. But I didn't think about it that Mighty Mouse is a champion anymore, of course, and Henry is right now there. I definitely think DJ should get a shot at Henry first, you know. But it just sucks for Formiga, man. He lost like every #1 contender fight leading up till DJ was champion. He lost to Benavidez, he lost to Dodson, he lost to Cejudo, Ray Borg,
yeah,
Ray Borg, and all got title shots after that. But like I said in the preview what he did last week, there are fighters who got title shots against Mighty Mouse without beating Dodson, Benavidez, Formiga, you know. And it just sucks for Formiga. Now finally he beat Sergio Pettis, who came off that win against Benavidez, who was now I think 2nd ranked or 3rd ranked, and now DJ is not champion anymore. And DJ will probably get a rematch, and he will still not get this title shot. So that's pretty painful for Formiga because he probably has still to have another fight before he can fight for the belt.
I hope you're right about that rematch being made, though, man. From what I've been gauging and what I've been seeing in
I'd be so pissed if not.
The prediction, I think the UFC is going to do it, man. I think they're going to make Cejudo and Dillashaw. It's not the fight I would make.
And that's another example of the point.
It's just because these guys have fucking gold belts, like
making bad decisions by the UFC.
Like, what's the big deal? Like being a UFC champion is a huge deal, but like these guys act like when they fucking get the belt that it opens the door to matchmaking that they think is creative, but it's really not.
No, you fuck up divisions, man. That's the thing you do now. You already have 2 less main events to make. You come in trouble with cards you can't put out because you can't fight for a belt. If you have 6 champions fighting each other, that's like 6 weight classes, 3 fights. Those champions can probably not fight within 2 months again, you know. So it's stupid. It's extremely stupid to do. Plus the fact Cejudo should defend his belt more than once, in my opinion. TJ should defend his belt more than once, in my opinion, before it can call it a super fight. You know, we could have had a super fight back in the day with Anderson Silva against George St. Pierre. We never got it. You know, we could have had a super fight between, what was it again? Pettis against Aldo. You remember?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Aldo said he wanted to go to 155. And then Dana said, that's okay, but you have to give your belt away in 145. And he said, no, I don't do that. Yeah, then we can't make the super fight, you know? And those were fights back in the day I was pumped about, and we never got them. We only got GSP against BJ Penn.
Yeah.
UFC 94.
Here's my thing about it, man. It is also on the topic of TJ Dillashaw. It's like, where the bantamweight division and the flyweight division differ is you and I talk about the flyweight division all the time. You and I both like the flyweight division. I have nothing but good things to say about the flyweight division. I think I think they're fun to watch, man. It's like watching normal sized people on fast forward, and these guys are so technically aware and they're such high level acumen. I enjoy it.
Me too.
But I do think that without kind of I'm not at all trying to disrespect the flyweight division when I say I think it's pretty well and universally agreed upon that bantamweight is a better division, and bantamweight has a little bit more as far as ready for title contendership right now, guys that are right there. I don't think you can say the same thing about flyweight, because bantamweight, you know, when I did a matchmaking article a couple of months ago for UFC 227, I said this is who I believe Dillashaw should fight next, but I really think I needed to point out that there is a distinct possibility that Dillashaw has 3 or 4 possible opponents next, because maybe I would agree with some of the options more than I would others. They would all, at the end of the day, be options. I'm talking Dominic Cruz. Cejudo is the one I like the least. Obviously, a guy like Rafael Assunção has been deserving of it for a long time, and I think Dillashaw versus Moraes would cause earthquakes. I think there's pros and cons to every one of those matchups you could possibly make. Flyweight, I mean, it's really you got to wait till Demetrius Johnson gets back and healthy again, and UCA Formiga's in that unfortunate spot where he's kind of at the front of the line, and he's just either going to have to wait or fight again. I think you said it. You said it well yourself.
Yeah, but you said it here again. There are contenders for either one right now in the division. There's no need for a super fight right now. You got Dominic Cruz, who is pretty much known as the best bantamweight to ever did it, And TJ has still unfinished business with him, so that would make a good fight. Assunção, he's deserving for a long time. He probably won't get it again, I think, but he's deserving. Marlon Moraes, probably the most violent fight to make. So the UFC would definitely be interested in that one. And Henry Cejudo, the most stupid fight to make, in my opinion, right now. But probably the UFC likes it. So, yeah, we will see what's going to happen, man. And flyweight, yeah, I'm gonna repeat myself, as I said.
Boring flyweights. That shit out of here. I think a couple other highlights on the card. I didn't expect Michelle Watterson I definitely didn't expect Michelle Watterson to damn near go for a clean sweep against Felice Herrig. What kind of effect that will have ultimately on that division might end up proving to be minimal, if I'm being honest. Vicente Luque and Jalen Turner, though. Where do I begin with this one? So I do one of my post-fight segment that is like my favorite thing to do is I do the segment called Octagon Jitters for the MMA Takeover.com, where I profile every debuting fighter in the UFC every week. And this one was an easy week for me, thank God, after I had 5 fighters in Moscow and 7 in Sao Paulo. Oh man, the Sao Paulo week, I was cutting it real close on the Sao Paulo week. There was a lot of information to give out. However, it was a nice change of pace this week with Jalen Turner. But as I was kind of digging a little bit deeper and coming back to the realization of how this fight was kind of made, it did or did not Vicente Luque say when the fight was over that they called him with this fight 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, pretty much. I think I heard that as well.
Why? Here's the thing. What's the point in filling up a card with a fight that the casual fans that you're talking about, that Dana White is stressing the importance on reaching out to? The large majority of them aren't going to watch that fight, number one. Number two, Jalen Turner has never fought at welterweight in his life before this fight. Even professional or amateur, it was lightweight the whole way. So maybe the weight cut things, I kind of get it. And Jalen Turner also has a bright future. I really do. But talk about doing him no favors. Giving him a debut against a guy who somehow, some way still has not garnished a top 15 opposition in Vicente Luque. I mean, what does this guy got to do to get somebody in the top 15 at this point? I mean, I want to see him. I want to see him fight the best. He's on an absolute tear.
Right did you remember that I said to you that I was extremely pissed about this fight being made?
It didn't make a whole lot of sense.
You kind of meme about me. He's extremely pissed because I said it 5 times already in this podcast. But let's say this didn't make sense, man. I mean, Jalen Turner, why would you offer a guy put that guy in the slaughterhouse, in my opinion, against a killer, against Vicente Luque, who is in his prime right now? We should get better competition. Man, I would love to see Vicente Luque against Eliseu Zaleski dos Santos, for example.
Ooh, I totally didn't mean to drown out what you're saying with my onomatopoeia right there, but wow, that's a matchup I would love to see too. How about him and Gunnar Nelson too?
Where's Gunnar Nelson, man?
Well, didn't he? didn't he tear his meniscus training for Neil Magny?
Yeah, true. That was in Liverpool. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I think that's going to be a little bit of I'm excited to see him get back in there. And even with the torn meniscus, that was like what, the card was in May and he was out of that card a while before. He should be good to go soon, I would say. A couple other matchups I think would be interesting for Luque. A guy might be ranked a little bit high, but there's something about the stylistic matchup of Luque and Jorge Masvidal that I think would be incredibly intriguing. As we were saying earlier, I mean, lightweight and welterweight, it might not be 50-50 in the realm of MMA fans as far as which division a lot of people might believe to be more stacked, but no matter what your stance is, I don't think they're too far off. A fighter from champion to ranked number 30 in both those divisions, it's just murderers. It's murderers row.
Yeah, I agree.
Anybody else on this card kind of catch your eye that we might not have mentioned?
Hot sauce.
Yeah, we were talking about that, man. Scott Holtzman. I did not expect that. I did not expect Scott Holtzman to look the way he did.
He was also a huge underdog, I think.
Yeah, I think he closed in around plus 270. I think he was the biggest underdog to win on the card. As I kind of look at it right now, underdogs were a little bit successful in this card. A little more successful than normal. You had Derek Lewis at plus 130. You had Michelle Watterson, who was kind of like an even money as an underdog. UCA Formiga plus 160. Tony Martin, while he was the underdog, Ryan LaFleur opened up at like minus 220, and that line closed all the way to fight week. There was a lot of money coming in on Tony Martin. I ended up going with LaFleur, and obviously I see why I was wrong. I thought Tony Martin looked good, though. He's training with Colby Covington down there at ATT, and I don't know, man.
Yeah, he's doing great at welterweight right now.
He really is. As kind of a scope of this whole card, though, man, I think there's some wins and losses to take away, and a lot of things you can look to. But once again, I'll say it again. It's almost bittersweet that we were all so excited for this fight, and while that's in the rearview mirror, it's Valentina Shevchenko versus Sijara Eubanks next. So, and pay-per-view wise, would you be amongst those that would say you're more excited to see Ozdemir versus Lionheart than you are Shevchenko versus Eubanks? Because I'm in that category. I love that fight. I love that fight.
Me too. But everybody is counting out Sijara Eubanks, and record-wise, I can see that. But if you have seen her fights, she lost 2 fights. I think she lost against Chukagian and against another good one. I don't know anymore against who she lost. Can you?
It was Aspen Ladd.
Aspen Ladd, actually, yeah. That was at bantamweight. Both fights, if that's what it is. And now it's a flyweight, and she looks like a beast there. And Shevchenko is a great fighter, but sorry? I
was on mute. I had to say something to my girlfriend. I'm sorry. Go ahead, my man.
No problem. Because maybe the only little bit of thing Shevchenko doesn't have that well is when she's on the bottom, and that's maybe weird to say because she got Pena in the submission, but I think Eubanks can do a lot of damage on top, if she gets her to the ground. And I don't know, man. I don't think it. I think Shevchenko is definitely the favorite to win, and I will probably pick her to win as well. But don't underestimate Sijara Eubanks. Many people do.
Definitely not. And while I'm not, I'm gonna try my hardest to not go on, kind of a pity parade and shit about that main event, because we as the media do kind of have a job not to. We don't have any type of distinction to be held accountable to hype these fights that are made. But I still think that we do have to respect the fighters, and I think that you would probably agree with that. And Sijara Eubanks is not one to be underestimated. I agree.
That's definitely not a problem. Listen, if I say it's an underwhelming main event, it doesn't mean that I don't think Sijara Eubanks doesn't deserve the shot. I mean, in all honesty, I think if Sijara Eubanks fought Nico Montano, she would have been the champ.
I
That's
agree.
my thing.
I agree.
She was the beast in that Ultimate Fighter.
The 14 seed too.
Yeah,
14
exactly.
seed too, and absolutely flattened Deanna Bennett with that head kick on the show too.
Yeah.
A lot of people forget about that. She just threw this Hail Mary head kick out of nowhere that, without even looking, it just landed flush.
Yeah, I also still don't know why the UFC cut Diana Bennett, man. I mean,
oh, they did?
Yeah,
I didn't
man.
even know they cut her.
She went to Invicta again afterwards.
Because at the Ultimate Fighter finale in December, she fought to a draw with Melinda Fabian, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Wonder why Bennett was the one that got the axe out of those two. That's it. I don't know.
It wasn't a great fight, and Bennett was rocked several times. She just held on, but give the people a second chance, man. Deanna Bennett is definitely more of a veteran. She fought in so many fights in Invicta. Finally got her shot in the UFC, and people might not like her, but at least give her a second chance. How many people they gave fifth, sixth chances in the UFC?
Right. Man, it is crazy that this event is kind of in the books, man. But there was more MMA in the past weekend too, and I think we alluded to PFL a little bit. I do want to talk to you a little bit about it. Yes. I watched the PFL card from top to bottom. I skimmed through it. I didn't watch it from bell to bell all the way through. We have title fights now. Steven Seiler and Lance Palmer at featherweight. And then you have at heavyweight, it's Josh Copeland and Linz, right?
Yeah, my dark horse.
Yeah, we were talking about Linz on the last one, dude. But that KO, the Copeland KO of Alex Nicholson, bro. Ooh. Oh my. Oh,
Alex Nicholson was about to take over, I thought, and then
me too.
Dang.
He got a little reckless, man, and Copeland caught him coming in. Looking ahead to this weekend, though, this weekend is lightweights and light heavyweights, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Lightweights and light heavyweight, yeah.
And it's on Saturday too.
Yeah, amazing.
Which is that's great.
But at the same time at Bellator.
Is it? Well, yeah, the main card will be around the same time about, but that's why your boy is prepared. I can't like switch the cameras around, but I got a nice little 3 TV setup in here, because I'm a sports guy, man. I got football on, I got baseball on. I got, if I'm up at early enough in the morning, like I was watching Man City and Liverpool, and that was just a complete waste of my time earlier today watching that.
Beautiful penalty kick.
Oh my God. Because I'm a City supporter, man. It's just I don't even want to get into Riyad Mahrez like that. Oh, it's just whatever. And obviously I'm a big fan of boxing too. I gotta have it all set up. But I wonder what I'm gonna do, man. PFL, Bellator on at the same time. The PFL card though is on the West Coast, right? They're in Long Beach, so they'll be on West Coast time.
For me, it's easy, man. It's just PFL because I can't get Bellator here. So
you're a trooper, you know that, bro. You deal with, especially cards coming up like Moncton, cards like Denver in November and Buenos Aires the week after that. Those main cards, I have 6 fights on them, and it's about 35 minutes in between. I get the move to ESPN. If the rumors are true about the pacing improving when they go to ESPN, that move cannot happen soon enough. And I'm just on Eastern Standard Time. I can't even imagine what it's like for you guys over in Europe.
You know that the first ESPN card is on a Friday, man. That pisses me off.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
Not good.
I'm gonna have to get that. I'm gonna have to get that night off. I do have. I'm prepared for this Friday. I have this Friday off. Let's talk about that, man. I mean, Ryan Bader and Matt Mitrione is a matchup I've kind of spent a lot of time going back and forth on. out of all of the 4 that are left, though, if you were forced to put any type of, you know, any type of currency down on having to pick one guy out of the 4 that are left, I think the large consensus, including myself, would go with Ryan Bader.
The master.
What would you think?
The master.
Oh man. Oh,
I mean Bader.
Master Ryan Bader.
You got it or not?
So like, oh, of course, like, but his the nickname would need to come as like a middle name, so it would like parlay perfectly into it. Like, if he was still in the UFC, and the number 5 light heavyweight contender in the world, he's like jumping around. He's like, Ryan Master Bader, dude. How could you ever take a guy like that seriously? I put Derek Lewis in that conversation now after his post-fight interviews, shorts off. He already, like, the first thing he says to Joe Rogan, my balls are hot. What, dude? Like,
and Joe Rogan was like, okay.
And now that he spoke into existence that he wants to smoke weed with Joe Rogan on his podcast, you know it's happening soon. Yeah. Like, you know it's going to happen at some point now. I mean, it has to. Yeah, how could it not? I feel like a podcast, if you're a listener of Joe Rogan's podcast, obviously he has his like MMA kind of fixated ones, and then he has, you know, the deeper and philosophical ones, and I kind of enjoy them both. But I think there's something that a little bit of something everybody could love if Derek Lewis gets in there and starts talking to Joe Rogan. They'd probably start talking about Travis Brown, talking about everything that has to do with that.
What was your favorite Joe Rogan podcast, MMA?
My favorite MMA Joe Rogan podcast.
I have also one.
Oh man, that's tough.
The first one that comes to mind.
I would probably have to say my favorite moment was the Brendan Schaub intervention.
Okay.
But my favorite overall podcast
with a fighter.
I really liked it. Could it be a fighter and his coach?
Yes.
Or just a fighter? I really liked Sean O'Malley's. I also liked Israel Adesanya's too. But I really liked Sean O'Malley's. They didn't exactly kind of beat around the bush. I like interviews with fighters that kind of expand their mind, like beyond the world of fighting, and I think Sean O'Malley kind of possesses that. And you know, now that we're even on the topic of him, dude, I mean, he was supposed to fight this weekend, and the UFC's new USADA kind of. What do you think about the UFC's new USADA policy? Do you like it? Do you think it's a good idea to kind of hold off on announcing guys that are being flagged for potential violations, or what's your opinion?
It's good, but I like it. I always said it, because potential violation, if you bring that out, people will always say like, yeah, but you did use, you know, and that's no, I've been clean. I'm blemished. No, because no, but you know, you keep getting that. But right now he had a fight lined up, so they actually had to come clean, you know. And Sean O'Malley did. I respect him for that. He did. But I don't know when this sample got in. When did the sample get in? You know,
that's where, as the MMA fan and the consumer, and definitely one that kind of reads between the lines and gets a little bit more into the black and white than most people would. That's where I think that selfishly the fan kind of loses here in the policy. I do like the policy. I think it's a good idea, but we're going to be kept in the dark about pretty much all of the details for an indefinite amount of time. And I mean, sure, that's probably okay. I mean, we really don't need to know everything about that. I mean, it is like kind of our business, being that we cover the sport. I don't know.
What did you think, for example, Taco had no opponent, and the UFC just say like, yeah, we can't find another opponent. Dude, you had a guy like Rafael Stutz, who is like doing amazing on the regional circuit. You know, only lost against Marab Devalishvili by spinning back fist within 10 seconds, but all won all his other fights. It's very entertaining to watch. Why you don't give that guy a shot? Why not?
Well, and it's interesting that you bring up a guy like Rafion Stotts too. I think amongst all of the look, my take on the bantamweight division right now is I have a very hot take on the bantamweight division. I think in about 3 or 4 years, or maybe even sooner than that, maybe give it 2 or 3. I think we might be talking about this UFC bantamweight division as, you know, as the new lightweight. I some of these guys that are coming up, and I make cases for it all the time. I think as far as fighters who are, you know, 1-0 in the UFC, 2-0 in the UFC, or like haven't gotten their debut in the UFC, like a Rafion Stotts, this division is absolutely loaded with up and comers. And but man, a guy like Rafion Stotts is a name I hear across the tip of a lot of people's tongues. I agree with you. His UFC debut is quite a bit overdue. I think he definitely deserves it. And that Dvalishvili spinning back fist, I'm not going to say it was a miracle, but I believe even Merab Dvalishvili, as incredible of a fighter as he is, would probably tell you and I both that a little bit of luck was on his side whenever he caught him with that. He's a great fighter, though. I love watching Merab Dvalishvili.
Me too.
And I loved his call out of O'Malley too. He's like, "You'll keep smoking, I keep training." I love that.
Yeah, I like him. He has a lot of good energy, that guy.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. When do you think the UFC is going to go back to Russia? Now that because you know, with that being in Russia, I know they said, I think David Shaw said possible
St. Petersburg.
Yeah, or I think he said also a couple other, but St. Petersburg probably makes the most sense.
Yeah, definitely, because they have that deal with the M1 Global, and M1 Global has the M1 Arena right there. So they could probably use that if they are doing a co-promotion or something. So yeah, what do you think about, actually, because Artem Frolov was about to make his debut in Moscow, and he's
booked now, right?
Yeah,
he's booked in M1 now, right? I mean, I think it's only a matter of time until he makes his debut. Once I saw that he was making his debut, I immediately started watching film from my Octagon Jitters segment. I mean, you know as well as a lot of us do, man. I mean, the talent pool in Russia and all the countries in the CIS is something that has garnished not only I think that the emergence of Khabib, and especially as the champion in the most stacked division in the UFC right now, is just a very small piece as to why the UFC is starting to promote in the Russian region right now. It's because there are far more guys than Khabib that possess superior talents from that area. And as far as that's concerned, is a perfect example of that. Is you have CB Dalloway lined up to fight. I don't know why.
Artem Frolov was
the guy before him, Omari Akhmedov.
Omari Akhmedov, yeah.
He's lined up to fight Omari Akhmedov the whole time and for most of his fight camp, and then it changes to Frolov, and then you read up a little bit and watch a little bit of film on Frolov, and you're like, yeah, okay. I can see why this guy's the M1 middleweight champion, and he pulls out, and then you got a guy like Murtazaliev, who, you know, fought for a couple of titles in Fight Nights Global. It's just next guy up over there. It's, you know, if a guy like Frolov, who certainly, like I said, it should be just a matter of time until he makes his debut in the UFC. If he can't go, man, there's another guy from that area that will be more than happy to oblige. And I think that's going to be beautiful for the UFC.
What about Askar Askarov in the ACB, the flyweight champion?
Another guy that,
dude, he is so good.
Watching him on the ground is, I'm trying to explain this shit last night to, like, I had some friends over last night to watch this fight that would not watch, you know, really any other pay-per-views. We kind of touched on that.
Yeah.
And I was trying to explain to them, and I think I was successful, maybe, I don't know, about how not only high level and experience you need to be in the grappling department to be successful in MMA, but you got to have some things up here that maybe your opponent and other people don't. Because a guy like Askar Askarov, when I watch him hit the mat, he's already 2 steps ahead, and he's already thinking 3 or 4 moves ahead. like from his passing to. I watched the Monday morning when Luke Thomas used to do the Monday Morning Analyst. I loved his video of, I think it might have been Askarov's last fight, where step by step you can just tell that this guy is thinking 4 steps ahead of what position he needs to pass and where he needs to go. I think Askarov would be an unbelievable addition to the flyweight division. And that's another guy who I'm not really sure why the UFC hasn't picked up the phone on yet. That he's ready.
100%, man.
Yeah, he's very ready.
1000%.
Yeah, without a doubt. On the topic, of champions in regional weight classes, I'm trying to think of a couple that I like a lot. That I would like to see. I would like to see Nakashima, the welterweight title, or the welterweight champ in LFA. He's not the most exciting fighter out of the bunch, but he's certainly incredibly talented. I enjoy watching him fight.
Didn't you expect him to get the contract after his last win against was it Stewart?
Kyle Stewart.
Yeah.
I remember tweeting whenever I saw the fight was announced that I thought that this very well could be the making of a winner gets the call up type of fight. But in a division like welterweight and like lightweight's probably in that same category where there's like 70, 80 plus guys on the roster, it might take a short notice opportunity or a wave of cuts for that to happen. Plus, we also have to take into consideration now with the signing of new fighters into the UFC that the Contender Series has emerged as as not only the primary source of its up and coming talent and new signees, but it seems like they're making it seem like it's the Contender Series is the new way.
Contender Series is amazing as long as they put it out live.
I already miss the Contender Series. I already miss it. I want it to be next summer already again.
It's awesome, man.
Really. I think it's the best idea the UFC's ever come up with. Obviously, the idea of the Ultimate Fighter kind of saved their asses, but I think the Contender Series is the best idea they've ever had. It's a perfect idea. I mean, all those guys go in there fighting like their lives depend on it. It's so awesome. Oh my man!
And I still think Chris Curtis should get a shot in the UFC.
I could go on for days about how Chris Curtis deserves a shot. I actually saw him tweet. I actually saw him tweet the other day. I'd never seen him like kind of say anything about it since he, quote unquote, retired that night.
Yeah.
I did see him tweet the other day. He was like, "Man, I'm still a little bit upset after being snubbed." I mean, that was one of the best finishes of the entire summer on the Contender Series.
It was amazing, dude. It was the best finish on that card, in my opinion. The most complete, performance on that card.
And Sean Lally is a tough opponent that he fought too.
Definitely, that was the fight I was looking forward to. And the crazy thing is, on that episode, Alonzo Manifield, he got signed, deserved, no problem with. Kevin Holland, he got signed later. Montel Jackson, he got signed. Greg Hardy got the development deal, and Chris Curtis got nothing.
Yeah, what the fuck is up with that? You think that you almost have to think that there's like something beneath the track, but then you sign a guy like Kevin Holland. Hey man, I love the story behind it.
It's fun.
I love that story that he told at the post-fight press conferences, how they're looking for an opponent for Santos, and they're calling all the Contender Series guys. They're calling all the ones that won the contracts, and they're all like, no. And they're calling even ones that won on the fight but didn't win the contracts, and they all say no. And they just like, call Big Mouth. See if he takes this fight. And he took it right away. Oh, man. I might watch that fight later tonight, to be honest with you. It was so entertaining. He like open hand bitch slapped him in full guard. Like while he was in full guard, like he's like looking up at him and like he's saying, ow, that hurt, and like bitch slapped him. I've never seen any shit like that with like a killer like Thiago Santos operating in full guard like that.
Yeah,
oh,
crazy.
That was so fun to watch. I'm trying to the other Contender Series guys. You said it earlier. Tay Edwards and Don Madge. That fight is going to be so awesome.
Definitely.
Those guys combined, I forget. I wrote the article when that fight was announced. Those guys statistics for finishing fights quickly, and then when you combine them, it's. But does it seem like when we have these fights that seem like they're going to end right away, they always don't? I don't know.
For many times, but we will see. I really think T. Edwards is definitely a big talented guy, a very talented guy. Don Match, he's the former EFC champion. But yeah, looking forward to this one. And I think for Don Match, this is definitely more of a better matchup than it was against David Taymor when he would have fought in Liverpool. It was the actual plan.
Yeah.
I don't say he will win this, definitely not. I don't say that, but this is more of a fight coming into the UFC than immediately getting a David Taylor fight. You know?
Yeah, and the Jalen Turner fight's another example of that. Not even to that extent, though, being that Turner had to jump up to 170. I don't get. There are a couple other fights too that are on the horizon with Contender Series winners from this summer that are up against guys that are not only established, but are guys that are on win streaks. I mean, Bobby Moffitt, and again, though, I also think it might have to do with how much respect the UFC has for these guys. I think Bobby Moffitt could probably hold his own against a guy like a Chaz Skelly. Let's see, who else?
Atman Shabazian against Darren Stewart.
That's a hell of a fight.
Yeah, that's a sick fight, man.
That's a sick fight. I'm actually that night. That's on the Ultimate Fighter finale.
Yeah.
I actually not officially yet, but I do believe I will be cage side at Bellator 210 that night.
Ah, nice, man. Nice.
It's that's my first ever event. I'll be covering for MMA Takeover.
Is that Manhoef against Njokuani?
Yep, that's in Thackerville, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma was where I was born and raised. And my father lives less than an hour away from Thackerville. So
on the playground, you spent most of your days.
Yeah. Oh, dude. On the playground is where I spent most of my days. Oklahoma. I love Oklahoma. Yeah. Like, when I told my dad about the opportunity to do it, I think we had plane tickets bought like shortly after that. And Manhoef versus. I always butcher his last name.
Njokuani.
I always butcher his last name. I've watched multiple of his fights, and I always butcher his last name. Njokuani, that's a sick main event. Remind me though, because I try to keep all the information stored in my brain that I can, but this one kind of leaves me. Did he fight Koreshkov at 170?
Oh, Njokuani.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. I think he did. Let me check for to be sure.
Yeah.
I have also too much things.
Fighters jumping weight classes everywhere. Yeah. You know, like
yeah, he did
a 165-pound division, and
he did last year in August. Bellator 182.
Bellator 182. Okay.
Verona, New York, catch weight, and Njokuani miss weight.
Oh, okay. So that's easily why he's going up to 185. I'm looking at a couple of these other Contender Series.
Antonina Shevchenko against Ashley Evans Smith.
Is that a mismatch?
I think it is.
I think it is. I think it is too. But that's the beauty of it all. That is.
Oh, the girl Macy Barber against Maya Stevenson.
That's a mismatch.
Yeah, that's a mismatch.
Yes, absolutely. Do you think she's setting herself up for disappointment though? With like the whole, hey man, I'm all for shooting for the stars. Growing up me personally, I had tremendous confidence in myself making paper maches in art class, like let alone doing anything. You gotta have tremendous confidence in yourself to go anywhere that you want to. But she is this goal that she set for herself to be the youngest UFC champion ever is so astonishing to me. Just because like she's on a time crunch already. Like she's already like 3 years away, right?
Yeah, right.
And that division too, in my opinion, is the most stacked a women's division maybe has ever been. I love 115. 115 is really fun to watch.
Yeah, who doesn't, man? That's definitely the best division. It is.
Yes, yes. I don't know why I'm failing to. Okay, here we go. Hold up all of the Dana White choosing a contender series, guys. Okay, so you also have Menafield and Safarov in Denver.
Yeah, true.
You know what has fight of the night written all over it too? That a fight that people probably are going to overlook in Madison Square Garden. Domingo Pilarte and Brian Kelleher. I really like that fight.
Me too. Pilarte did was in trouble in this fight in the contender series, but he overcame it and he took it.
And what was the name of the guy he fought? Because he's fighting at yeah, he's fighting or did he in San Jose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's his name?
I can't remember his name.
Where it's no King if you need him. Not Garcia.
That was one of my favorite fights on the Contender Series this summer too.
Really good fight.
He fought. Vince Morales.
Yes, true.
And Morales had him hurt.
Yeah, pretty bad actually.
Yes, he did. What else do we have in MMA? This after UFC 229, we got 3 weeks. And obviously, I'm not trying to just focus on the UFC here. It's you got 3 weeks in between now and Moncton, and then it's 8 weeks in a row on Saturdays. Oh, another Contender Series guy. What about Jim Crute and Paul Craig in Adelaide?
Yeah, that's a fun one, I think. But Jim Crute, I was impressed, and I can't really say I was impressed lately with Paul Craig. But he did get that crazy, crazy finish over Ankalaev.
Oh my gosh! Oh man, that was so sensational. That was one of those jump off the couch type of moments for me, especially because I had heard a lot about Ankalaev going into that fight, and obviously we saw Ankalaev, do what he was capable of against Prachnio. Oh man, Paul Craig is he? How dangerous is he off his back, though? I mean, I really feel like he kind of caught Ankalaev sleeping there.
Yeah, definitely that. Let's put it this way: if that fight happens 10 more times, I think Ankalaev wins 10 more times. So it is definitely. I don't know. People were like, "Why the hell you tap in the last second?" But if you are fighting, you have that adrenaline rush, and he was too busy on the ground to think about the click 10 seconds before the end.
Yep.
So yeah, it's very bitter for him, I know, but great comeback win for Paul Craig right there, and I wonder what's going to happen. I don't know. We'll see. What do you think
about what about
Crute against Craig?
Oh, I think I don't think Crute will make the same mistake Ankalaev did.
No.
That card is like kind of starting to become sneakily good, with Hunt and Willis and Shogun and Pedro, and I really like Kara France versus Mokhtarian. I like Kara France. What were you gonna say?
Dude, the China card. What's up with that, man? Are we gonna get some fights? Or?
Yeah. Are we going to get? I think I have an idea of what's going to be the main event in Milwaukee. But that card too. I have a feeling Lee and Iaquinta too is going to headline Milwaukee. I could obviously be wrong, but I have this weird reservation.
Definitely Kevin Lee, I think.
Yeah, and I saw Ray Longo on Anakin Florian's podcast.
Yeah.
Where they do like that whole money thing that they do, and he said, "Put up some money on who you think Al's going to fight next," and he said he thinks it's going to be Kevin Lee. I'd be interested in seeing them run it back, wouldn't you? I mean, I think Lee would be in every position to get that back.
Definitely, man. I mean, Kevin Lee, that was his UFC debut against Al Iaquinta. I think it was.
Was it? Yeah. I don't know. Kevin Lee has kind of had a long and windy, but mostly consistent UFC tenure.
Yeah.
And the guys that he has lost to are all like elite level talents. And one of those guys that I'm also kind of like holding my hands in the air, like, where's this guy? Where's Leonardo Santos?
Well, he was injured again. He pulled out a fight against Nick Lentz in Utica.
Yeah, he did. He was bitching about getting top 15 guys, and maybe but
it was actually crazy because he did give an interview to Combate, the Brazilian outlet, where he was like, "I'm so happy I'm finally back and I can finally getting my way to the top 15." And one day after that, he pulled out of the fight with an injury. So yeah, crazy.
My man, I think we have damn near run out of time.
Yeah.
But I've had a lot of fun, like I always do. Just to give obviously yourself the platform to let everybody know where they can find you, just in case they have already forgot, being that you're a VIP on this podcast at this point now, man. You're here every week, it seems like.
Thanks for having me again, Davidson. You know, I love coming on your show. Always good to talk to you. Follow MMA DNA, MMADNA.nl. Like I always say, fighting is multilingual, so what the heck. Big Marcel 24 on Instagram and on Twitter. I want to thank all the guys of MMA DNA again. You guys know who you are. And thanks for having me again, Davidson, man. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And yeah, I hope my English is improving. Sometimes I can't find the words.
I never noticed. I never have any reservations for it being anything other than totally fine, man. Honestly.
Okay, thanks. I keep saying it because it bothers me if I can't find the words. That you have like a sentence and you can't find a keyword. It's so annoying. And yeah, but thanks, man.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate I appreciate you even reaching out and being like, "Yo, we got to talk about this," and it's just like, bang, there it is. Once again, it's been an awesome episode of the Bottom Line podcast. I think I'm on at 47 at this point, and I might have my college football one lined up with my guys over here in Toledo later tonight as well. Those are always fun. So we're just climbing up. I feel like I did my first one yesterday, and we got established men on here, and we're doing big things. We're going big places. Thanks a lot for coming on, like always, man. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. My pleasure. You know that.
Take care, my man. I'll probably see you on here on these waves very soon.
See you later, my man.
Have a good one.